What's up, guys? It's Chris. Today, I want to talk to you about the future of Dead by Daylight. Not the future set in stone, but the future of the game we love with the current path it's on. Many fans of Dead by Daylight have also tried other asymmetrical games in hopes of enjoying it as much as DBD. Evil Dead the game, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Video Horror Society, and the list goes on. What do all of these games have in common? They were all ridiculously survivor-sided. Dead by Daylight has seen the release of some of the coolest killers ever, with Vecna, the Singularity, Chucky, Alien, and soon Dracula since 7.0. They've also just introduced a new game mode that the community's loving, 2v8. So why is the player base stagnating instead of growing? Since patch 7.0, Dead by Daylight's game balance has been on a downtrend. In patch 7.0, Made for This was introduced to the game. Right before this, Dead Hard had just been nerfed and things were looking up for Dead by Daylight. Nothing ridiculously game-breaking besides nerfs. Both sides had fantastic strategies at their disposal, and the player base was loving it. And then came Made for This. This was the single most game-breaking perk introduced into the game since Boone's Circle of Healing. But it wasn't just MFT. In the next bug fix patch, 7.1, behavior removed the ability for killers to grab survivors who messed up off of hooks they were trying to save. And then in patch 7.3, behavior added a base kit deliverance feature so survivors could unhook themselves on stage 1 and 2 if the killer was nearby for a long enough time. They also buffed background player to a 200% speed boost for 5 seconds, becoming debatably even more game-breaking than MFT. Next, in patch 7.5, behavior limited the amount of times a killer could damage a generator. This means that if survivors messed up and left generators close together near the end of the game, the killer is now unable to punish them after a small war of attrition and are forced to let the survivors win the game. But surely behavior realized Dead by Daylight has always been at least slightly survivor-sided throughout its entire history and gave killers some compensation, right? They sure did. We got base kit Shadowborn to make killers' field of view very slightly bigger. And then in patch 7.7, they rebuffed Decisive Strike to 5 seconds, which effectively neutered tunneling on the lower tier killers. So what does this say? Behavior used to at least try to give compensation to one side when another side was buffed. An example of this was in 2021 when survivors got base kit BT with added haste, and killers got small quality of life changes to kicking pallets and hitting survivors. But now I believe this company has resorted to blatant pandering. This is a real quote from a recent patch note. Pop Goes the Weasel has proven to be very strong, and the conditions to activate it aren't very difficult. Pop Goes the Weasel requires the killer to win chase down the survivor, hook the survivor, and then find a gen worth using it on. It also happens to be the second most popular killer perk in the game. Do you know what the second most popular survivor perk in the game is? Live. Fucking live. If you can name me something easier to activate in the game than vaulting a fucking window for 30 seconds of free distance, I would love to hear you out, but at this point the pandering is so blatant, I don't know what else to do but talk with you guys about it. And I'm not saying DBD is hopeless or completely unfun for either side right now, because it's simply not true. What I'm worried about is the very obvious trend. The games that I mentioned in the beginning of this video died because killers simply wouldn't play with how much the survivors were given and the lack of counterplay. If Dead by Daylight continues on this path, I am worried that the game we love will die, and I can't imagine anything else like it. There isn't a game out there I've enjoyed more in my entire life. Dead by Daylight has it all. You can sweat, you can relax, you can go for fun meme builds, and the insane variety of characters has kept me hooked for a long time now. But again, I'm worried that behavior is going to continue on this trend, buffing the role that buys the 14,000 Feng Min skins and eventually leave killers defenseless. Now, I want to make it very clear that at this point in time, killers are not absolutely defenseless, and it's not like I'm saying killer has zero chance at any games, because that's not even close to true. But I'm worried that's where we're headed, and I want to bring attention to it now before it's too late. So what can we do? I think an obvious thing for behavior to do is limit gen speed bonuses heavily. I don't believe any gen speed perk should stack on a generator, period. If someone has Prove Thyself and Resilience, only Prove Thyself activates on the generator. If someone's repairing with a toolbox and has Prove Thyself and Resilience, only the toolbox gen speed is applied to the generator. So what I'm saying is the game detects the fastest gen speed item that they have access to, to and applies that and that only. In a game based around set movement speeds and set gen speeds, a killer should not be forced to guess if a generator will pop in 90 seconds or 30 seconds. It's completely unreasonable. The second thing they need to look at as far as gen speeds are the toolboxes themselves. When I heard a toolbox change was coming, I thought surely Behavior knew how insane the Commodious toolbox was and they were going to nerf it. Instead, they just flat buffed sabotage speed on every single toolbox. Now, I understand that a lot of developers at Behavior probably don't play the game because they have their hands full with fixing bugs and adding new chapters, so I'm not trying to sit here bashing on them. But again, it is obvious that they do not play the game. I also thought of an interesting change recently of giving a 20-second Corrupt Intervention to Killer's base kit at the start of the match, and reworking Corrupt Intervention to increase all gen blocking by 10 seconds. To me, these are healthy compensation for killers after so many effective killer strategies have been nerfed in recent times, and I don't think it has potential to negatively affect the fun on either side at all. I actually think it'll do the opposite and be even more interesting because you'll see an increase in pressuring gens to get value from DMS and allows so many more builds to really be usable on the killer end, not just boxing you into pain res in every build. I also firmly believe a ton of maps need to have a few pallets straight up removed because the count on maps like Blood Lodge and Eyrie of Crows is just simply too high. But I really want to hear what you guys think, what stuff you think should be introduced in the game, and I really want you guys to keep it positive as well. I know this video didn't exactly have the most positive outlook on DBD's future, but I really just wanted to call attention to things I've noticed and point them out. I do not think this game is doomed. But either way, I appreciate all your guys' support, and I'll catch you in the next one.